1943, the struggle for a planet and the need for strength in every corner. A war sustained by ships, a war in which ships were the vital factor. Man-made corks in an element that only those experienced in all its moods dare use as a highway, let alone a battlefield. One huge battlefield in a strange and terrible kind of war with tactics incomprehensible to a landsman, but a war, like others, dependent upon reinforcement. A war whose fighting men were often thousands of miles away from the seat of battle, yet upon their skill and their efforts, the battle's outcome rested as though on a knife edge. The building of ships, the repairing of ships, the turnaround of ships, on such mundane factors depended victory or defeat. For the want of a rivet, a ship lost. For want of a ship, a campaign lost. It was the kind of war that landsman Adolf Hitler, for one, little comprehended. How warships were used, he had little idea. Yet he was impressed by their size, power, and obvious strength. Maybe it was because of his ignorance that the German Navy began World War II so ill-equipped and ill-prepared. A handful of pocket battleships, some assorted cruisers, a few destroyers. Of really effective giants, only two, the Tirpitz and the Bismark. Though at war's outbreak, these were either unfinished or not yet equipped for sea. In the matter of a navy, Hitler's ally was far better off. But with its command's lack of daring and fear of losses, Italy's fine fleet was destined to see little action and know only final ignoble surrender. But the shortcomings of the Italian navy were largely offset by the disasters that overtook the French. A navy forced to remain idle in Vichy ports, in part battered to pieces by the British at Oran, to prevent its ships falling into German hands. For the British realized that a handful of powerful enemy ships, or indeed just one loose on the Atlantic sea lanes, could cause havoc. But because of the risk, Adolf Hitler was fearful each time his ships put to sea. It was for this reason that he forced the Scharnhorst and the Gneisenau to sail from ports in France to safer havens in Germany. In face of determined British air attacks, the German ships reached their home base, though so damaged by mines that both were put out of action indefinitely. Greatest gamble of all, the Atlantic raid of the Bismarck. For days, all available Allied naval strength was kept hunting one lone but massive wolf. Battleships, cruisers, carriers, sweeping half a world of ocean. Before she could get home, the Bismarck died out there in the Atlantic under a rain of 16-inch shells. As all that remained of her crew came aboard Allied ships into captivity, Adolf Hitler decided that as far as battleships went, his had gone far enough. Henceforth, Germany would rest her naval strength upon her U-boat fleet. And in that, Hitler had something. U-boats, a few hundred of them, commanded by the elite of Nazi fighting youth, directed brilliantly by Admiral Dönitz. As each steel shell returned to its base, it flew the flag of its killings. And behind each strip of bunting, a terrible story of destruction. A story of good men drowning, of good ships sliding forever into the ocean depths. Hit and run, the method of the U-boat. No prisoners taken, just men, weeks adrift, dying of thirst. Holed by torpedo, sunk by shell fire, or set alight. Thousands of tons of shipping destroyed each month, thousands of good men lost. And once in a while, a major victory, the destruction of a capital ship, a big ship like the Barham. For a man who knew little of the sea, Hitler was doing pretty well.